one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll have the roll call, please.
Mr. O'Neill.
Here.
Ms. Ware.
Here.
Mr. Howland.
Here.
Ms. Callahan.
Here.
Mr. Stadelman.
Here.
Ms. Mosbleck.
Here.
And Mr. Roseberry is absent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion has passed. We have an announcement for board member positions available.
We have one position available currently.
Next up, we've got public input. Is there anyone from the audience who would like to? Okay. All right. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say I might want to apply. I'm considering it, but I don't know what the process is.
Okay, all right, so we're good. Okay, so we'll go to our next item on the agenda. We've got new business, the Natural Resources Board website update. I know we talked quite a bit about this last month. There are some updates, Kim.
We're going to be adding the litter quitter initiative on there. We're going to start a sustainable Sebastian section. So I would like, anytime you run across something interesting or a good link, because we're going to add additional links. We got a lot of feedback previously on the links that we had. It was categorized by like lawn, fertilizer, and links to other websites, whether it's in the county, the state, or environmental organizations. So I encourage all of you to just forward a link to me.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Is this going to be on it as well?
Yeah, we're going to discuss that under the Sustainable Sebastian.
Are there any additional suggestions from the board members about the website? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think we kind of covered it last. I think we'll just wait and see how it rolls out.
I just
and we can
want you to continue to remember that also we, in addition to our main menu items, we're also going to have a page of links. So that would be a good place to put like the Surfrider Foundation and some other sustainability, and everyone has their own favorite go-to sites for things environmentally related. I just encourage you to forward them to me so we can incorporate them in our site.
Okay. Okay, so I guess we'll move on to old business then. We've got the Treasure Coast Waterway cleanup, which we had 2 Saturdays ago on July 27th. To give a recap of the event, I guess. I mean,
It was very interesting.
it was an educational experience.
It was so surprising to pull out the amount of garbage. I have never really signed up to go and just pick up litter in my own community like that before. And I've lived in Sebastian the vast majority of my life, and I was so surprised at the amount and the variety of garbage, everything from plastic spoons and forks, straws, cups, things, plastic bags, things that you would think of. But we got burners, we got tripods, we got gas tanks, we got buckets, we got light bulbs. And within 5 minutes, I had 30 pounds of garbage within 50 feet of where I stood. I didn't have to go very far, very fast, and I was very surprised considering everybody I know is so ecological minded, and I was just shocked, and it was just right there for everybody to pick up all day long. We could have spent another day out there, I think, and I was just very, very surprised. That'd be my feedback.
Did all of our data cards get turned in? It'd be interesting to see what
They went up to Sebastian, the dock up there by the Chubby Mullet. I took them up there and left them. She had gone to lunch, so I left them on her booth was still set up, so I just left them on top of the table there.
And all the supplies that were,
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, no problem.
remember that the barbecue is this Saturday, I
It
believe?
was last Saturday.
It was last Saturday.
But I don't know if they had it. It was raining so hard and there was lightning
yeah.
and everything. But they probably had a weather backup. It was at the yacht club. But I don't know if they presented data there or not.
I definitely, I know that they were supposed to present the data at the barbecue, so that means that they have it gathered. I'm going to get a total for our area and see. It'd be interesting to see.
I think, go ahead. Go.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's really fine.
I didn't know if this would be the time to just recommend a few things that I saw down there that I think would work, or should that be wait for member matters later on?
It has to do with the cleanup, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think what my I was only one small part of it. I went north of the boat ramp primarily, and we had a station as NRB, and everybody else in that area was set up with Brian taking charge of that. And Kim started, Kim, I keep calling you Kim, sorry about that. We had gotten there first thing in the morning, and I went north, and what I found out was the most garbage was where the most people were. It was just, I mean, a stupid thing to say, but I went all the way up to north of Earl's. Earl's Hideaway, I was lucky to find a bottle, and I only found a bottle because I stepped on it in the mangroves I was trying to get through. Earl's Hideaway beaches were clean. And then it went downhill from there till you got to our boat ramp. And I think most of it was just in the facilities that are there to collect the garbage as people are interfacing with the boat ramp. The trash cans, I think, are just highly inadequate for where they're at. I was like, being told that, well, the trash cans that I like to use are right there, and I didn't really notice them. They were basically right in front of me. I wasn't looking at them because they needed to be right at the boat ramps. Right now we have garbage cans that are basically plastic bags inside a plastic container. And if we could switch that over to a closed system like they have on the sidewalk where the lid actually closes, but even those garbage cans, they were full, and they were overflowing actually. Maybe more service on the weekend areas for the areas that are used. And we don't have to worry about the whole coastline, I don't think, which we do worry about, but we don't have to constantly have somebody out there emptying the garbage cans or a different type of receptacle. And the ones I was looking at, they actually compact the garbage and they have closed lids, because what I think is happening, our good intentions are leading to bad results. We fill up those plastic garbage cans and they either get blown out, or maybe an animal in the middle of the night has thrown some of the garbage out, but it's accessible to the elements regardless of what it is. So if I could get some garbage cans that are just, and they're there. Waste Management also has garbage cans that are solar powered and they compact and they need to be right
Those
there.
are like $20,000 a
meant to
piece.
send you the
We have some in
pictures.
Riverview Park because we got a grant for them. They're called Big Belly, and they're solar-powered trash compactors. They're genius. They would be ideal. Something interesting I learned during the trash-free waters thing when they were talking about wanting to standardize all the trash cans, which makes sense when you look at how many different ones that the recycle gets missed a lot, is that no matter how many trash cans they add, people just add more trash. And that the focus for, as far as recreation, they were saying the focus needs to be on leave no trace ethics, pack it in, pack it out, don't use these trash cans. And they've actually found more success in removing trash cans, which is not something we'll do because it's a public access area, we have to have trash cans, but that's one of the studies, and I had never looked at the problem that way until that program.
Same thing has been found on beaches. Beaches with no trash cans are cleaner. People take it as opposed to one trash can that gets overflowed, people just leave it around the trash can.
If you put 5, all 5 get overflowed.
Yeah, and they were overflowed. Miss Mosblett was quick to point that out. It's like, look, the garbage cans you're talking about are right in front of you. I didn't notice them, so they're kind of inconspicuous, and that was by design, because you want them to kind of match into the environment. But if you don't notice them, again, your garbage is going to get tossed. And it wasn't the receptacle that was there is not the right type for the location that it's on, because it's right on the water. It's exposed to extreme elements and animals. That as well as the pickup probably needs to be done a little bit more. And it mostly has to do where the people are is where the garbage was. And that was really it. And then a lot of go ahead.
I think that's probably for a different conversation as far as like what we're doing in the parks than just the cleanup here. If
I think definitely for a continued conversation.
Because we do have some money in the redevelopment agency to help with garbage containers, and sometimes a larger container that has the top would be more efficient as far as stuff blowing out would be concerned.
Anything with a closed lid that gets emptied on a regular basis. Can I keep on mentioning a couple of those little things?
Sure.
And it's directly related to our river cleanup.
Right.
Also noticed an old septic system that is right there at the Main Street Park. And you barely notice it, but you see the cement covers for it, and it's got to be an old septic system. I mean, there's just no other thing there. And I didn't know, and it's from the old house that used to be. It had to be. There used to be a house there like a lifetime
That's a baffle
ago.
box system.
What is that?
That's a baffle box system.
A baffle box system? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
It was
every outfall, they're called DOT outfalls. They go from US 1 to the River Lagoon because there's a curb and gutter system on US 1. So every DOT outfall has a baffle box system installed, and that's where they access them. They pull up those lids and they vacuum truck the sediments out. Baffle box system brings that direct flow and allows it to move through these baffles of cement.
Well, this was full. That's why I thought it was a septic, because the whole thing was it was covered in grass, and I moved it back, and there was really no outlet from it. It's completely, I thought it was a septic. I didn't realize it was the baffle system.
I'm pretty sure it's part, like you should see a big, large metal round. I know there's one over there.
No, there wasn't anything like that. I'll have to get some pictures of it, but I found stuff like that as I was going along, and I just thought it may have been from a really old, because there was older houses there prior to the new Sebastian that we have. So, and it was just amazing the amount of single-use stuff, the plastic bags, the cups, not singling out any single business, but you found a lot of name brand cups that people just use and
Dunkin' Donuts.
And toss. And I'm as guilty about it as probably the next person. I love those places, and it's easy to use.
Probably not throwing it in the river.
I'm not throwing it in the river. And then one more thing, and I'll be done. I apologize. The signage is around I'm speaking of the boat ramp area, because that's where we were. They're kind of faded and maybe even a little outdated, and maybe they do talk about manatees and things like that and some of the wildlife that's there, but maybe we could push what you take out into the lagoon, bring back with you. Bring back your burners, bring back your fuel tanks, bring back your cups, but maybe update the signages.
Leave no trace ethics, clearly from what
just bring your stuff
was accumulated on the spoil islands.
The spoil islands were one of the worst, and thank goodness we had people going out there on boats, because they were bringing back just horrendous stuff that should not have been left out there. It was pretty sad.
Okay, I'm done with that.
The signage that's at the docks right now is a requirement of the, I think, FDEP, and that signage, like the manatee signage, that's directly supplied by them and required to be at every boat dock and public dock, I think, as well. And so I know it has a lot of seagrass in it.
But just I think things like that, and maybe something that says bring your garbage home. I don't know.
Maybe even that organization, No Trace Left, No Trace. Those
That's
people.
Emily Dark.
Right.
Yeah, we should talk to Emily Dark and see what we can do.
Let's reach out to them.
Absolutely.
And I think the litter quitter, as we get more into that, pushes a lot of that as well. So I think we may be already into that a little bit. But I was surprised and a little discouraged when I first seen it. And
Right, those signs have room, those big boards with the signage, they have room to add some leave no trace education, for sure.
Actually, I think, who was there with me? We were standing at the pavilion and looked over, and there was one small sign that said, I'm almost positive. No?
Just pick somebody.
No, I don't know who it was. It may have been one of the participants in the cleanup. We were looking over, and if you look, there was one small sign, but it was kind of hidden in the vegetation, and it wasn't necessarily visible. But yeah, signage would be good to remind them. Can we put signage out on the islands? I know that the islands don't belong to us. We can't.
No, that's Emily Dark controls. That's something we could talk to her about. They have an educational program of that's what they're trying to focus on, that leave no trace ethics with boaters. And they do she manages the Spoil Islands, and they have a really large territory for 2 employees, for sure.
Oh, okay.
And so I think reaching out to them, we'll ask what they're doing and if there's a way that we can help implement it on our islands.
Okay. One of the things that I think would be kind of informative, I know that we had kind of unofficial counts as people were coming in and collecting the material, but I think if we could try and get the data for what types of items are, not just how much or the mass of it, but what are we seeing? Are we seeing styrofoam plates? Are we seeing lots of silverware? Are we seeing lots of straws? We certainly did see that. I mean, there were lots of coffee cups coming down. And so those are the types of things I feel like that we can use that data to help us kind of approach businesses and say, be part of the solution, as well. So
along that lines, I mean, I'm interested in the data, but I think that providing it locally, if there's any news that could pick it up, and or just putting on the website as the results of this is what we found, so that whether it's education or just awareness, that perhaps bring it to folks' attention.
Yeah.
And regarding the signage that we can't put on the island, you have to get to an island from somewhere. Is there a way, at least in the municipal boat docks, that we can put signage there that
All the signage that's there is sort of a regulatory requirement, but I've never seen anything against supplementing that. So I don't know why not. So I'll research and make sure, but I don't know why we couldn't. And I believe that probably Emily Dark, through the Spoil Island program, that she may have some material available. Like I said, just a really huge area. So if we're helping implement the things she's trying to get out into our area,
All right. Any other input, comments? Okay.
I just sent you some photos from the event.
and from the cleanup. Thank you.
Okay. All right, then I guess we'll move on to Sustainable Sebastian. So we had the litter quitter training class today. You were all there? Charles?
We
you
had
were.
10 attendees,
Yeah. Yeah.
and what we came out of it with, and just because a lot of you were there, just to recap, I'm going to send out the PowerPoint in PDF because it had the directions for using the website. And then also that training manual that we've seen. I didn't want to print that out. It's like 50 pages, and I don't think that everyone needs to have it printed in their hands, so. And then what we really need out of that, I'm told that they have something. I couldn't find it on their website. We need a comparison of materials.
We do.
We need it. We want to be able to. We need to set the example here at City Hall. We have events for employees, and we use plasticware and styrofoam plates. So we need a comparison just to go to City Council.
So, but you have seen it.
I have one that's like a all over United States one.
Yeah.
I think it's from Surfrider, actually.
I saw their coaster.
And that had comparisons? The price
Oh,
comparisons?
no, the price comparisons.
right.
That was from the Clean Waters.
The trash-free waters?
The trash-free waters. That was from Trash-Free Waters, the one that I saw.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which we have
I thought it was part of the litter quitter, but I couldn't find it on the website. But we have that.
I haven't seen the litter quitter one, but I have seen the trash-free water as well.
I almost feel like this is what I kind of was envisioning as we were sitting in the meeting, either like an app or some kind of a survey or some kind of website, electronic something that you could go to on your phone with a business owner and say, how much of these do you purchase? What is your cost versus this? And you can plug in your numbers. I know that some people, that's just how my brain works, but paper would probably be a lot easier for others.
Right.
So I think having something that you can just basically have blanks. How much are you purchasing? What are your current costs? And what are the costs that we're going to be, that you will be able to get these items at? And that way the numbers will be right in front of them. And I think what was said, one of the women who was there today mentioned, it's $20 for a case of styrofoam cups in terms of the differences. But I think it's really important to point out per item, if it comes down to a nickel, if you create some kind of a signage or something that says, yes, we're making changes, and you may notice your prices go up by a few cents, but that's because we are trying to I'm using science language, but like internalize these external costs and take the cost of the environment. If you can find a way to advertise that to the public, like we mentioned, I think that would be really critical.
So that's what it was part of the trash-free waters thing, but it wasn't submitted as part of litter quitter, because I was looking through and I couldn't find it today because I wanted to have it printed out.
They said they have it, though. Litter quitter
Right.
says they have it.
Maybe it's in that 50-page manual.
Probably. So can you let us
Yeah,
know when those
I'm
come
going
in
to get that
as well?
out. We need to probably amend it and add some other products available, not just go with what they have a marketing plan with. Definitely look at what some other major food purveyors that restaurants use, like Parkway, what they have in comparison. And, a good point was made after the meeting that a lot of businesses get their supplies from Sam's, and these things are not available at Sam's.
Yeah. That's actually, yeah. So we have
Smaller businesses don't buy from the big purveyors,
Yeah.
they buy from Sam's. And same with probably a lot of our vendors at our events. They buy from Sam's, they don't buy from big purveyors, and that might be a challenge that I never considered before.
So maybe we have to work on Sam's.
So what we're looking at is, we're gonna have another meeting with Kaylin Palmer, she's the one that her car broke down today. And Lisa.
A single-use plastic ban would solve that, because,
Let's baby step to it. You got to kind of, these programs are just instilling the idea of sustainability. Of course, they aren't ideal, they aren't the complete picture, but let's work our way up to it. But we're going to have a meeting with Lisa Frazier from the Community Development Director to have a cemented plan for rolling this out, and this is going to be next week probably. And then from there, what we want to do is present this, because we have to have city council's approval before we do an official rollout and use city resources. So we're looking at the first week of September for that Wednesday city council meeting as a goal. That will give us time to have a rollout plan, have exactly what we want to do and how we want to implement it, and the cost comparison sheet and everything. So we really can't ask for their support. And honestly, we can't implement anything to anyone unless we're setting the example here as well, so.
Yeah. And that would be, so what we would be presenting to them would essentially be just the litter quitter portion of Sustainable Sebastian?
Sustainable Sebastian as a whole, and then this litter quitter program, and there are going to be other facets to it.
Yeah.
But do we have your support in this program?
It sounds like to me you want to expand Sustainable Sebastian to almost be its own.
Right, litter quitter is an element of
Right.
Sustainable Sebastian, but other things can be too. And there's certainly like approaching the events and the lagoon-friendly lawns. I left a brochure there for you. That was the next item. That's Daisy has already been implementing it in Vero Beach, and it's a great program. They have a really nice signage. It's like wooden signage that just goes in your flower beds. It's not against any city ordinances. It's not as detailed as a Florida-friendly lawns program, but it's kind of an intro to that. It gets them, just like these other programs, it gets them thinking, looking at their lawn and thinking about the changes they can make. And it was developed by Keep of Our Beautiful as well, but this has been run by Daisy for a long time. And she said she'd really like to see us, we've had a lot of discussion about landscape, and it gets very tedious when you look into code, and this is something that's just really general, and it just gets people thinking the right way, and it's the same certification level. If you wanted to look over it and see what you thought, I'd like to promote it through Sustainable Sebastian on our website as well. Daisy and her team does all the certification on that.
For clarification, that the lagoon friendly lawn is intended for any resident?
Daisy's been running it through all of Indian River County, but she's just been certifying people in Vero Beach so far. So I just wasn't going to offer as part of Sustainable Sebastian and offer a link to it until the board reviewed it and saw what you decided what you think about it.
It's great stuff.
I don't see why not. I mean, I feel like existing programs, if we can kind of support them and make them more effective.
It's not something we have to run or we have to volunteer to certify. She already has a team of people that certify it, and she's already running the program. I'm just saying, why don't we make it part of Sustainable
Increase
Sebastian,
awareness.
and why don't we promote it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we have to
Vote on that or
propose
anything?
something?
Is there an action, is that an actionable item?
I guess.
Well, I make a motion, we put it on our website that we can.
Can we make a motion right now to do that?
Yes.
Do we need, I would like to make a motion for the Natural Resource Board to support the Keep Indian River Beautiful Lagoon Friendly Lawn Program as it sits right now in its entirety.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
Okay.
so we've got that.
So for the meeting you're talking about in September, the litter quitter program, this lagoon will be mentioned, or are you looking for other topics?
Well, we also want to lead with sustainability at City Hall. And I got some great information, which I could not print out because it's a lot. But I will forward it out to all of you. I went in between the class and now thinking I would just print some of this out. And as I look through it, I'm like, this is a lot. And I don't know how to taper it down. But it's worth forwarding out. There was some great stuff from EPA, from Nikki. And Bob had it's a UN statement for sustainability. It's really worth reading over for how they set their goals. Is real general.
Yeah, but give yourself some time. It's called Agenda 2030. Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's
but
really
it's
neat.
got distinct 17 goals set with subparts on how to do it, which this fits in with.
Right.
Yeah.
It touches on really every facet. It's really good. It's a good model for how we look at Sustainable Sebastian too. So I'm going to forward the links that everyone gave out to everyone else, put it all into one email and forward them.
Do you want us to just, I'm sorry to interrupt, I apologize. Do you want us to just email you these? Because I thought we were to bring suggestions.
Whichever,
No,
however.
I'll just email them.
However works best.
Okay, I can email them, because I only have one or two, maybe three.
So what we're looking at is we want to start at City Hall. So when you look at, like, if we were could City Hall be a litter quitter certified business today? No, not even close. So we need to be a litter quitter business. We need to be running that way. So when you look at things that offices can do that just here on our property, small, not the entire city and the whole, development of the entire community, just in the city hall, in this building, we have employee events, and we have styrofoam plates, plastic forks, plastic water bottles. We need cost comparisons of what they're using now and what the alternatives are, and we need to get them on board. Basically, the first prong to this is if we can't get City Hall on board to be litter quitter, how can we, ask our businesses to do it? So,
Yeah.
but we need to go to City Hall with, cost benefit analysis. Here, this is what we're doing. This is what the change would cost. Can you support this? And if you can, then, this is the same sort of thing we want to expect from our businesses in this area too, and lead into it.
They're going to want to see those cost
Right.
sheets too, so we need those cost sheets, right?
Right, and then I'll find what we have, and we also need to build on them.
Yeah.
One from each of those companies that are mentioned in the presentation, would be good too.
Yeah. I'm
Just to
assuming
have
that
them.
Kaylin has those, some of the examples. She was
Yeah, I
planning on
wrote
bringing
some
them.
companies and had them send samples before 2 Earth Days ago. Remember, I had them on display?
Yeah,
And I still have those with their invoice sheet. But we need to take those and compare them to the common things that you can get at Sam's and Publix, like the common things, like the styrofoam plates by the 100
Is
pack.
Sam's where City Hall shops?
I think so. I'm sure it's there or Home Depot, or Walmart.
Okay. Well, sometimes we need to expand our horizons.
Right.
Yeah. When I was going through and kind of coming up with my list, I feel like I was going along of not United Nations Goals 2030, but I kind of submitted a whole list looking at, waste production, but also energy conservation, renewable energy. I think, you really, once you kind of open that box, all of these things are very interrelated. And so, looking at water conservation, the lagoon-friendly lawns helps with that in terms of natives and not using as much of the water usage. But even like things like transportation, I don't know if the city can address things like crosswalks and bike lanes and those types of things to make it more friendly in that aspect too.
They're looking at a green infrastructure plan in general,
Yeah.
And connecting our green spaces, and it's the whole concept.
Yeah, I think that's something that we need to do and create as kind of, if we have all of these things contributing to a common goal, or if we have our goals laid out, that we can advertise, we can put on the city website, the Natural Resources Board website, and we can say that these are the things that we're trying to do, because I didn't know that there was green infrastructure, but if it's under, it's in the works, these are things that we can use to kind of advertise what we're doing as a city.
I know it's something that the Community Development Director, Lisa Fraser, she's passionate about the green infrastructure. Something I've been mapping on GIS is mapping all of the drainage right-of-ways, FBL right-of-ways, like just trying to get all of the green spaces and publicly owned property mapped, and then how can we connect it? And so it's not something that gets fixed next month with a grant, but it's something we want to approach in pieces, and we know it's something important in the planning of the city, so.
One of the other things that I wanted to bring up, and I don't know if this would be under member matters or here, but I had been in touch, I don't know if you guys remember Dr. Richard Baker from the Audubon Society. He had been here when we were talking about the landscaping ordinance, and he had contacted me because of my teacher role, but they have established a program called Trees for Life, where they are trying to, within Indian River County, plant 100,000 trees. Which is obviously going to take some time. But the way that they're doing it is they're essentially looking for volunteers. They're looking for people who are willing to take a tree for free, a seedling, not a seedling, a small tree. Sapling, yes. It's got some time behind it. But yeah, so take it home, plant it, take care of it. You basically sign that that's what you're going to do. And that's, that's contributing to air quality, it's contributing to quality of life, it's contributing to global climate change, all of these solutions, habitat, and just thinking about trying to connect these greenways, maybe we can try and find a way that we can connect these greenways with more native trees to allow, not just us to be able to go between these greenways, but also wildlife.
Like it creates a nice corridor, like along 512, where we have all those cedar along the sidewalk, and it creates this corridor where you forget that you're along a major road. So it helps a lot with the.
Yeah. So that being said, I don't know how wanting to move forward, I think we've been wanting to approach the city council for a long time and try to get official endorsement for these types of programs. So, we'll meet in September before that meeting, right? We'll meet like the day before.
The day before.
Yeah.
Are we going to make a recommendation that the city stop using glyphosate?
That's bigger. That has to do with not operations inside City Hall. That has to do with something bigger that's being approached by the city manager currently. So it's not something that we can have a request for at this point. So I don't know where it's at, but I know that it's being addressed by the city manager and city council. They're doing the research on it. They're looking at alternatives, and the cost is huge to go a different direction. So that's something they have to approach. It involves the entire city budget. So just.
I think one of the things that we should report to the city council would be that we have a few initiatives going, but our next step is really the document you're referring to has the whole framework for how to go about a plan. And I think what we need to do is to start that, to take that framework and say, we're going to have goals for the following things that we want to do, and we'll take, a piece at a time and start working toward it. So develop the plan. So all of these plans are to start with a plan. That's where you begin. And so I think that's it. We have talked about just a couple of items, and we're going to get going with a bigger plan, and we need to work through what those things might be, whether it's green buildings, green space outside, but go through the elements and say, these are the things, and let's begin one. It's going to take a while, and just...
lagoon friendly would imply no glyphosate, in my opinion. So that, the research I've read, and I'm very concerned about the blue-green cyanobacteria that's in the stick marsh right now. The research being, when it meets salt water, there's a high degree of aerosolizing of the mycotoxin, making it very, very dangerous. So no sense in feeding that algae.
Does it help at all to go on the record with our opinion that please get us off the glyphosate?
I think we have to do that.
Just literally being on the record that please make a switch.
It will be now.
So how do we do that? Is that something that the board would vote on?
I would say we should.
An action item?
Can I step into this a little bit? Now, I am for nothing being sprayed, and that includes all pesticides, all herbicides, and I'm willing to take whatever route I need to get there. My problem with the glyphosate argument, you have to take it all the way back to where it started with the World Health Organization and their organizations on the cancer, what causes cancer and what doesn't. My problem is that everybody's blaming everything on the glyphosate, on a product that's being used for over 40 years, and there's a backstory to the whole thing. The science, the testing, and everything that goes along with it I'm having difficulty finding first which scientists to believe, which tests have been reproduced, which examples that I can put forth, not only for my own well-being, but again, I have a very young family. I try to serve the community, so I'm having a very difficult time finding the right studies that are reproducible, that I can say this is what it is, and that they're not what they call cherry picking their research.
Can I make a recommendation? There's a site, just like you have Google, right? So you go into Google and you put in Google Scholar, and it comes up with a whole different Google window. And if you search for what you're looking for under Google Scholar, you'll only return peer-reviewed articles.
Well, I've been doing the research as deep as these people are testing on tadpole embryos, and that's the research I've been doing on glyphosate. I mean, I've been looking at.
Make sure what you read is peer-reviewed. That's an important thing.
It's not that it's. I'm not going against or for it right now. I'm just saying what I'm finding. I can't find reproduced results, and I can't find clean results from clean science, and that's really my argument right now, because I've got people out here saying glyphosate causes everything from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma to autism, and I don't have clean science.
There's no conclusive research.
That's really my argument. Now, I don't want anything sprayed. I don't care what it is, and if I can keep everything sprayed out, great, and if I have to agree with a motion to get this out, I don't. That's my position on that. But my research shows me I'm dealing with funny science here. And I just want everybody to know that, I mean, I've really been looking at everything, and it is piled on both sides as heavy as it gets. And it's really intimate science work that you really have to look at on everybody's side, and it's a really hard thing. But again, I'm for nothing in the water, nothing it goes on the food, and I don't care what I got to do to get there. But the science on this is crazy, because when they start saying that it's causing autism, Parkinson's, leukemia, it just harkens back to when they said that the immunizations cause all these other problems, autism and everything else. And it turned out that the doctor who put out those studies was basically putting out his own vaccine to compete against what he was saying is bad for everybody. That's real. And what I found in this WHO document is the scientists that are behind all this, what they're all fighting really is Monsanto and Bayer as a corporation, because they basically own 80% of all the food that's grown on the face of the planet. And when you can't get in, because what they've done is they've genetically modified the seeds to be resistant and the plants to be resistant against the glyphosate. That's the real thing here. So what they do is that they sell the seeds to the farmers. So Monsanto will sell you the seeds, then they'll sell you the weed killing. A lot of farmers now are basically called Roundup babies, because they've never had to till the ground before with real tractors, because that's how effective this has been. Now we're talking about feeding billions of people now, and this is how they do it. They use a genetically modified corn, wheat, soybean, whatever you want to call it. One company owns 80% of the world market, and the weird science is saying that on the other end, this may be an attempt to break that monopoly, as well as, hopefully they have environmental issues on their mind. But there's a lot more to it than just maybe glyphosate is dangerous to us, which I don't care what it is. It's all
Large
dangerous
farming
to me. I don't want
monocultures
any of
have a
it.
cascade of environmental effects. But they're, nothing we can.
I grew up here. My mother worked at Felsmere Farms for almost 45 years, and really, I went into the farms and I talked to the farmers there and the people who worked in these fields, and I can't find these effects that they're talking about out there. I couldn't find it. My research is telling me I've got research on both sides, and they're all cherry picking. The side that I want to be on is cherry picking, and the side against me is cherry picking.
They don't sell it in Europe.
Yeah, well, a lot of the EU countries have stopped it, yeah. But again, they're also, I don't know what their agendas are, and I don't know what they're growing in Finland. I don't know what their agricultural bases are, and I don't know what their agreements are with Monsanto. But in the end, I don't want any chemicals sprayed or anything like that. But I can tell you, anybody would have cared about this if the WHO organization hadn't brought it up. Their organization, I don't know exactly what it is, IRAC, something like that, had done their research. Now, those same people who say that this is cancer causing and everything else also classified hot coffee is in the same classification. Red meat is in the same classification. There's a lot of things that are in the same classification that I don't see the same uproar because I don't have the backing of these people who are trying to break this market, who are enraging the internet against all this. So again, I am against anything being sprayed into the water, onto the weeds, for mechanical purposes, whatever we got to do to get there. But the bad science on this project is a slippery slope. I deal with it now on glyphosate, and I give into that. But then on the next thing, when they're saying, "Oh, this causes that, this causes this," and the science is just terrible. I need better science on it. But again, I'm against anything being sprayed. I'm just bringing that up so you guys know what the position is and where it's all coming from. It's a lot deeper than just some herbicide being sprayed for the last 40 years, and now we're just now getting excited about it.
This is why it's important when you look at scientific articles or something that claims to be scientific that it's backed by peer-reviewed research. This is an important
I still think
element.
we as a board ought to recommend not using glyphosate here in the city of Sebastian, given that there is known correlation between the release of the VMAA toxin when cyanobacteria hits salt water. It gets aerosolized. It can also be contracted through your skin and inhaled or swallowed. So this is, we could be looking at a city health thing here.
It's international. It's huge. When I say huge, and when I say 80% of everything you eat in your refrigerator is done by one company, that's really where this is coming from. It's that genetically modified seed that is resistant to the glyphosate. And again, I want to kill it all. I don't want it. But the science is just terrible on this project. Just awful.
We have water coming out of the marsh going down to the Sebastian River. And it meets salt water. This is where the BMAA toxin is released in its aerosolized form. I think this is a danger to the community, and certainly as a Natural Resources Board, we should recommend against using this product.
Can we take 2 votes on this?
I thought that the stick marsh, that they're attributing that algae to the use of biosolids nearby.
There certainly is an
This is
aggravator.
stick marsh, it's just below blue cypress. I think that.
It's right out here in Felsmere.
So they were using biosolids around stick marsh as well?
I thought that's what.
They used to use it all over the place. Now it's being used in Brevard mostly, but there still are some operations here, I believe. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I do know that the cyanobacteria is there right here in Felsmere, and it flows down the Sebastian River.
I agree with everything you say.
As a city who sits on the mouth of the Sebastian River, we should stop using it.
Can we get a consensus vote? Can we at least do that? That is, if each person here can vote if they want to vote on the glyphosate or not, can we do that? Because I'd like to let the
Anything
city
that
council
you
know
each
that at
say
least
goes
we
on
are-
official record into the minutes. So that's how you make it in a statement.
Is that
but-
something that you do, or I don't really know?
It would be as simple as the board recommends the city looks at stopping the use of glyphosate in all city properties. I mean, this would be our recommendation based upon being the Natural Resources Board.
We don't use it in our parks and spaces. We haven't used it in a long time.
Okay, so we're good.
I do know that.
So then it's
The only use of it is in an aquatic form,
waterways.
and it's not
In the
by the
aquatic.
city, it's by a third-party contractor.
So.
Yeah, because you've been saying for
Right.
quite some time now that they
Well, we
use
should recommend it.
physical
We
And
control of
actually,
weeds here.
last month, a green business class was held by IFAS, and all of the public works employees and myself were certified, green business certified.
Oh, good.
It was a 2-day class. a
So
hard
is
test.
that part of the program to phase out the use of
We already don't use it on city property, but it was just
But the aqua glyphosate is still used on city property?
it's
The canals?
spot sprayed in the canal. And actually, I get the invoices from Applied Aquatics just for filing, and they haven't used it in 2 months, so it's not something used all the time.
All right, we'll table that for
That's all
now.
I can say.
Are we still on member matters?
Yeah.
I just would like to ask the board to just take a moment, and I would like 1 minute off the clock to remember the tragedies in El Paso and Dayton, Ohio, El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio. And I'd like us to just take a minute off the clock just to reflect on what's going on there, if I can, Chairperson. If I can have a minute, please. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we're at member matters. Are we still, is there any other comments?
I had one
Yeah.
thing still from previous
Oh, from
discussion.
the sustainable Sebastian? Or no?
Yes, sustainable, Sebastian.
Okay.
I will forward one link, and it is about 9 years ago, a group did a study, and it was on sustainability for small town America. And so it brings to light some of the small towns, and small towns being like 1,500 people or so. So when you look at the community of Sebastian and its size, you know, a lot of initiatives when you look to Philadelphia or bigger cities, you have different funding and different abilities to do things. So a lot of excuse, I think, comes when it's small town. So you can have an EPA that says, you know, here's all the plans and here's how you do it. And then there's always the element of financial well-being of the community to be able to do whatever you choose to do. And so I would like to forward that just as an additional perspective of some of the initiatives that are sustainable in its own financial way as well. And so interesting to see that they set goals to reduce carbon footprint and or other things, but simple measures like getting hybrid cars for the city. So as we need to replace, that's one of the things you might look toward. And so I will pass that along as an additional resource to look at. It's an interesting study.
Is it something you have printed or a link you can forward?
Right, I'll send the link.
Okay.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. Any additional input? Okay, so I think we've covered member matters as well. Items for next agenda, is there anything?
Next Friday, we have, I don't know if you've met her or not, there's a young lady who received a grant from Keep America Beautiful, and what she wanted to do with it was install a living dock at our oyster garden. So I met with her and the volunteers, and we assembled the mats, and now we had to change it because last Friday the weather was terrible. So we're doing it next Friday. I'm going to be emailing all of you, but just to keep in mind if you're available, just a morning for an hour, we can get in the water and attach these mats to the pilings at the oyster garden dock. It's a great grant program.
Is that the 9th or the 16th?
16th.
Okay. So do we need to officially put anything on for the next agenda? I'm assuming we'll just kind of continue our discussion of next steps. Are we, I mean, is this something
We're going to have the litter quitter meeting with Lisa, and we're going to,
Oh, that's right, so we'll be able to,
and then we'll be preparing for approaching city council. It's
City
going to
council.
happen now.
okay. All right. Unless there's anything further? A motion to adjourn? Aye. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned.
Hey, right on time.